Hi everyone, welcome to Coffee with Craig. This is where I go live and I discuss some of the predictions I've made and make a few predictions for the future, and we have your chance to ask me some questions about these things. Today I'm going to be looking at one or two sort of things from the predictions I've made already. I'm going to be looking at Ukraine a little bit and some thoughts that I had about that, and Canada. A few things about that as well. So, bear with me. Look at that. Nuisance. There it is. Hides away. I'm going to do my titles. I did it last time. Last time I had the phone go, didn't I? I had Joe Biden ringing me trying to ask me questions. I said, go and ask Mr. Trump. He'll tell you what to do. Anyway, we're going to do Coffee with Craig now. So here we go. Coffee with Craig. Well, hi everyone. It does get a bit Heath Robinson for me, I must say, sometimes when I'm trying to do all the controls, do the graphics, think about what I'm going to say, and do it all. But I suppose that it's the videos I actually enjoy on YouTube are often the ones with a few rough edges, actually, rather than the over polished. So apologies for that, anyway. So yeah, I'm going to talk about some of the predictions that I've made up to now. A few again that I've noticed have started to happen. And we'll talk. I'll just comment on a few of those. A few other things that have come to me recently, which I'll share with you, and then you can ask a few questions of me, and we can discuss some of the things that are going on at the moment in the world, and have a thought about some of those things. So, now the first prediction I made, you remember in my 2020 predictions for 2023, made in 2022. I made a prediction about the stone of Scone. Do you remember the stone of Scone? I pronounced it wrong. I think I've got it right now for you Scots out there, sorry. Or Irish, because it was originally an Irish stone. But it was the old coronation stone that was used for the coronation of the kings of old, and particularly for the coronation of... It came from Ireland, I believe, went to Scotland, was used for the Scottish king's coronation stone, and is now, excuse me, being used as the coronation stone for the kings of England, or of all of Great Britain. So it's a very highly symbolic thing. I said there would be some troubles with it, and that there would be I saw a terrorist attack on it or something. I said there'd be a terrorist sort of attack associated with the Scottish National Party, and it would be an embarrassment for the leaders of the Nicola Sturgeon and the rest of them. So what came up in the news, which I thought was quite interesting, was this headline. It talks about King Charles' coronation. SNP, that's the Scottish National Party leaders, contender, who was Ash Reagan, backs calls to stop the Stone of Destiny being used in the ceremonies. So I'm just interested in that, because I couldn't understand why was I seeing this thing with the stone. So already it's in the news, and I thought that was quite interesting. But I'm not saying that's some bang-on hit prediction or anything, but I'm just saying that it looks like something sort of rumbles around that, and certainly the idea that something could dramatic happen with that stone could actually happen. I was looking up the history of it actually, because we had Women's Day yesterday. I think it's International Women's Day, and the suffragettes, I believe, set a bomb off in Westminster Abbey. In the time, they don't mention that it's always a nicey thing about Women's Day, but the suffragettes were pretty fierce people actually. They're fighting for women's rights. They let the bomb off in Westminster Abbey where the stone was in the past, and it was actually damaged, and they only recently discovered it as split in half. It's damaged. So there's a symbol for the future, a split stone. Oh, so that's one of the things I was quite interested in seeing. And so let's see if anything else comes from that. But one of the others, you remember I also said about Justin Trudeau in Canada. I said that he'd be plagued by this year coming up, because I was saying this back last year. I said he'd be plagued by accusations about being in cahoots with the Chinese, and that I said I believe he is in cahoots with the Chinese. Now, I don't follow the Canadian press, and I know a lot of Canadians out there ask, "Oh, Craig, can you do some stuff about Canada?" Well, I don't know much about Canada, to be honest, to be able to make that many predictions, but apparently the other ones I did all came true, or a lot of them did anyway, Canadians were saying to me. But this one particularly struck me, is that they're now saying, this is all over the Canadian press, that Trudeau isn't loyal to Canada, and they're really going for him at the moment over his ties with that. The election was kind of possibly influenced by Chinese money. Now, that would be very surprising, that a political a vote could be influenced by Chinese money, is it? It wouldn't happen in somewhere like America, would it? No, of course not. No, that wasn't influenced by external forces or any clandestine things. No, that's been completely debunked. Of course it has. And so was Trudeau. But here it is, Trudeau in the news now about all these horrible links with China. I mean, we've been sleepwalking into disaster with China, as far as I'm concerned. It don't take a psychic now to tell you that, but I was saying that a long time ago. And of course, Taiwan, which I've been banging on about for a long time, and you know, about the China in Hong Kong and things. I've spoken a lot about China in my time. I'm not anti-Chinese people. I'm anti the Chinese Communist Party. Hopefully we don't get kicked off YouTube by saying things like that, because these influencers nowadays are dangerous in the background. But we're seeing it all happening with Taiwan. A lot of you were saying, "Oh, Craig, I think that balloon that went over Canada is all part of this business where you predicted that there'd be an air problem, something." You know, I've said I think there could be either two airplanes clip each other, or two submarines clip each other. That's what I'm actually saying. And that balloon thing, I don't think was it, but it was interesting to see all that still happening. I'm sad to see all that happening. Also, just sticking with those type of things too, I've often said to you, haven't I, that Donald Trump will go into the next elections with a black woman who's going to have a very powerful influence. A number of you have written to me, particularly by email, and particularly those in the patrons, saying that Carrie Lake seems to be becoming very, very dominant. And although she's not, you wouldn't immediately say she's a lady of color, but she is. She's got those roots. Now, so I want to just make one new prediction actually now, which is something that has struck me. Sometimes when I do psychic predictions, they come in dreams. Not always, but usually in meditation. But sometimes I have an unusual dream. And the last week or so, I've been writing all my dreams down deliberately, because I've been teaching. I do a teaching thing now where I have I mentor people, we call it, but it's based for whoever wants, you know, for different type of things. But if one or two people want to learn how to do predictions, and others want to be mediums. And so I've said with one that wants to do some predictions, let's write our dreams down and compare them and see if there's anything comes up. And I had a very powerful dream the other night of a river of bears. And I thought, what a weird thing, you know, a river of bears. And there was this river of bears, and we were in the woods, and it was a muddy place. And we were running from this river of bears that was pouring down. So instead of water, it was bears. I have some weird stuff, these dreams sometimes. I shouldn't eat that cheese. But we were running from these rivers of bears, and it was a sort of like a pine-like woodland sort of area. Suddenly we stopped, and all the bears were stuck in the mud and drowning in the mud. I thought, well, I woke up and thought, what does that mean? What on earth is that? But of course, Russia the symbol of Russia is a bear, isn't it? And so I thought, well, is this what's going to be happening with Russia? They're wanting to sort of kind of move in at the moment and sort of push in now onto the Ukrainians. And I wonder if this big drive, which I think is going to be coming up, there's going to be a big drive from Russia at the moment, going to storm in, and they're going to try to make some big moves quick. But I saw the bears stuck in the mud. So the weather might defeat them, just as Napoleon and Hitler were defeated when they invaded Russia by the weather. This time it might be the other way round. And I saw tanks. It could be, that's perhaps what that was. So that was one thought. But then I said some time ago that I feel that the Russians' attack on Ukraine will actually extend into the Balkans. Well, I had to give a reading for someone the other day. An email reading it was, and they were based kind of in that area. Asked the I Ching, and it said very clearly that there would be war in their area. So could it be that the Russian advances are now going to spread into the Balkans? It's possible they could go into Georgia again soon, and it's possible that Belarus could get involved and start to push forward. So it seemed, and we were asking about how long would this take, and it would be 5 years, it said. So I think we're going to have a very extended war there with Russia. I mean, very extended. I can't see it coming to an end anytime soon, but it looks like it might extend, and it might be something which will bog Russia down, just like those bears were bogged down, and just like really Russia, when it first went into Afghanistan, got completely bogged down. So it's a slow defeat for Russia. Okay, so that's what I'm making as my prediction for this particular video. And Trudeau, I think we might see the end of him soon. I think we might see it. Now, some will be happy with that, some won't be. But I really do strongly feel that he has, that there was massive corruption, Chinese money corruption. So obviously, I'm as a commentator, I don't know that. I don't sue me for it. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that as a psychic, and I think I believe that is being seen at the moment. Okay, right. And let's have a look at some of your comments now, guys. So you can put your comments, and if you particularly have a question, put the word question first. Then I can spot them in the comments coming up, because when you're doing this, they start to scroll, and it gets quite difficult. Thank you for that one. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Let's try one near it. Craig, the Russian troops on the front line are prisoners, not actually soldiers. Indeed, they are. They're forced recruits, aren't they, that are going in. I certainly wouldn't like to have been a Russian being sent out there with limited equipment, apparently, and goodness knows what, no experience. But it's always been the case, hasn't it, with wars? The Second World War was fought by shopkeepers and bank clerks and the rest of it. They train them up, but I don't think there's time. There's no profit in peace, one of you saying there, and that's very true. What is behind all this? There's no profit in there's no profit in a stable West, is there, either, really, generally? And I think it's you certainly sell more goods, I feel, when there's a war on. That some of the biggest expenditure goes on war, doesn't it? I've said about this already, about Taiwan. I think there's going to be a conflict. I don't think Taiwan itself will be invaded, though. I think there's going to be conflict, but possibly some military conflicts. And I said in my earlier predictions that I said it would be this year. It has to be said, though, with all these things, timing is so difficult. timing is so difficult with psychics. That's where the astrologers come in better than the psychics. You see, the astrologers can often see the dates a bit better. I think the psychics can see the events, and perhaps that's where Nostradamus scored, because he was a bit of both, wasn't he? He was both. The coronation will go fine, but I think there will be some problems, some minor scuffles with that, like I was saying about this, the stone of Scone, the stone of Scone. I don't think Biden will run for president again. No, I'm going to give a no to that, because I have to get rid of him. There's no chance he could run. He might try to, he might want to, but somehow or other they get him out. And, he don't make the decisions in the end of the day, does he? It's others that make the decisions who's going to be presidents, particularly in his lot. And just like, Trudeau, who makes the decisions in the background? Everybody wants personal power, but there's always going to be somebody paying the piper, isn't there? There's always going to be someone in the background. And that's, I think, where we worry so much about our world and our society, don't we? Because we all of us now feel completely out of control. I mean, it's marvelous that I can talk to people like this through YouTube, and it gives you a sort of a illusionary sense of control. But when it comes to it, all of this is run by algorithms. All of this is run by money in the background. All of this is about profit, So people, the values of the world are so bad at the moment, aren't they? But it will change. Like I say, I really do feel there will, in due course, there will be a turning very much and a better age ahead. Really do. I feel it's getting closer too. And that's just someone picking up on that already. Yeah, let's hope these problems will be a preparation for better peaceful times ahead. And we can only get those better peaceful times, can't we? If we get better peaceful people. I know the powers that be kind of influence everything on one level, and we all feel it's them, they do it. This is what all conspiracies are about, aren't they? They, who are these they? Who are these them? Ultimately, it's the people that will ultimately decide the way the world goes. And I think when you look around, you walk down the high streets and the stores and things like that, and you look at ordinary people, you think, ooh, we've had it, but each one of those has their way to become awakened beings, all of them. And I think if we do get a world of greater spirituality, I think we will see the changes. We'll see the end of conflicts and things, but we have to have people of character, all of us, but also people of good character in positions of power. What's that one you're saying there? Trudeau is attempting to censor streaming laws online right now. Is he? See, I'm not up with it. But I mean, I was seeing about this, and I think he's quite a dangerous character personally. I think he's a dangerous character. And a lot of you are very obviously up for Trump as well, I see. What's he saying here? This is thoughts now we're getting. This is less predictions and more thoughts. Wouldn't it be cheaper to pay the Russian soldiers not to fight instead of billions spent on arms? Yeah, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be easier in the world if we just we shared our money around a bit? I mean, the very money we spend on arms and defense, if that was just shared around a bit to make the world a better place, people might not want to go to war so much. But sadly, throughout history, we've always had to spend on, defense and offense for wars. Otherwise we end up like the Carthaginians with the place torn down because Romans hated them and plowed the fields with salt. There's always going to right way through all history and all sides of the world. There's always been that. So unfortunately, it would be cheaper just to make them all millionaires and they won't want to go to war. Yeah. Okay. Just see if there's any other questions there. I might have missed some of them, guys. You might have to put them in a second time if I miss you. So you're putting a lot of comments, and the problem is I can't get between the comments and the... completely off topic, but ayahuasca, is that? I can't remember how you pronounce it. Does it help with awakening? I could do a whole video on that one day, but you always got to be a bit careful about talking about things like that and psychedelics and things nowadays, because there's a sort of censorship coming on a lot with what people say. that sort of thing, I think, is I always look to what Baba Ram Dass said. He said it's not a question of just getting high. And it's, you might say this isn't about getting high, but used to say it's not about getting high, it's about being high. And I think these things can, if they're done in the right circumstances, legally, in the right places where it's legal to do, then it can be I see it as a rite of initiation, really. And that's how other people saw it, as a rite of initiation, a rite of passage, you know. And then once that's happened, then it's up to you to do the spiritual work on yourself, but obviously not to be returning to that time and time again. And like Herman Hesse said, it's not for everyone. It's not for everybody, you know. I don't know about Romania, actually, really, but I think Eastern Europe as well is going to become, the divides are going to start to happen. And within their own countries too, because there's still people in the areas that were formerly controlled by Russia in the past, and parts of the Soviet Union, where there's many Russian-speaking people. So there's always going to be a bit of a conflict internally. But I see places like Poland already. I did say it in my very early predictions that I felt Poland would get involved and give arms. They've been trying to do that now, and I think there would more countries, there'll be a stronger divide. You know, when you get a war like this, you have to eventually take sides, just as the Scandinavian countries have had to join NATO and things like that. So this is more me thinking. This is not me as a psychic talking here, but this is me talking. Anyway, I'm going to kind of finish now, I think, guys, because I'll be on again tomorrow, because Jane's hurt her leg, actually had a bit of a fall, so she can't get up the stairs to the studio tomorrow. So the Friday Craig and Jane show is probably going to just be me. So if you want to make sure you join me, it'll be kind of perhaps a bit more like this. You can ask your questions, and I'll take some more questions then. So don't forget, if you're new to the channel, do follow it, because if you follow the channel, you will be able to get updates all the time when we go live. If you become a patron, and thank you patrons who've been interacting with me with this, because often I miss stuff in the press and they say, hey Craig, something you've said just come through. Like, for example, someone said the other day to me that they found that they're finding a new form of energy or coming from air or something. I don't know. There's my predictions about the unlimited energy that will come into the world in due course. That's little things. I didn't put that one up today because I didn't think it was quite what we wanted, but I'm always grateful for your interactions with me, and the way that you help me to make all this work. So thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget, if you're interested in readings, if you're interested in NAADI readings and so forth, they're all on my website there. So go and have a look, and you can also get my books online there, and you can read my books about what my thoughts about the future, my books about dreams, my books about Jane and I's life, my spiritual thoughts. It's all in the books. And if you buy those, it helps support the channel, helps support me, and helps us have a livelihood, and we can eat tomorrow. No, we do all right. Okay, see you all soon. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.
They're the real deal, and they're really sweet. Like, you can tell they come from a place of love, which is very endearing.
I know. You know, charlatan, and especially in Los Angeles, you know, when you're meeting shady people, these guys are the real deal, no doubt. Yeah.
Everything about the reading was just spot on, down to the colour. She gave the colour blue, which was very prominent because we wore blue to the funeral, and it was his favourite colour. So I've seen a lot of mediums before. I was very impressed with them.
Very, very good connection. I couldn't believe the connection I got tonight.
We're definitely talking to our loved ones.
Mm-hmm. He said about the photograph, well, I had all them, and he said to me, you've got that in your bag. And I did. I had everything in my bag, they said. When I went outside for a break, and I said to Carol, they know things that nobody else knows.
Now, where was I up the back there?
She was spot on. Everything was right. It all meant a lot to me. She had my father's name, everything, things about my brother. There's been problems with my brother, and I'm so glad to hear of them both. My father, he was doing this. I'm just glad he's friends with me, because things happened. Now it's all just a bit emotional.